Hello, this is Edna White. I am so glad you're with me. Today, I am going to answer some questions that was on my YouTube about certain traumas. So here goes. I'm going to talk about hoarding today. Do you know right now there is more than 1.2 million compulsive hoarders in the US? Think about the channel Hoarding, the hoarders. Think about that. That is a compulsive disorder. Medical dictionaries note that the condition affects anyone who exhibits an uncontrolled need to buy or somehow acquire large numbers of items for no clear logical reason. To make matters worse, the conditions develop gradually and continuously, leading to clutter in all areas of a person's home. So eventually, the sufferers end up in a desperate condition and face serious impairment. Someone with that disorder refuses to part with even the most insignificant item in the vast inventory of their goods that they have. If they feel the pressure to clear up clutter, they often begin to act out irrationally, often in dangerous ways. That's because even the idea of getting rid of a single item causes them severe emotional distress. See, the irony of the situation is that most of the hoarder's items are never used or even looked at by the sufferer. But if you ask, why do you keep all this stuff? You know what they'll say? They'll come up with an answer about how they someday plan to use the item. Of course, the answers don't really make sense, and this person is simply trying to rationalize why they keep so much useless, often worthless junk. Now, what are the 5 levels of hoarding? There are medical experts that have published scientific studies, and they attempt to measure the severity of hoarding disorder. So it's called the NSG-CD clutter hoarding scale. I'm not too fond of those things because I believe everybody's different, but we'll go along with this, okay? They list 5 levels on their scale, each one of which indicates a particular phase or disorder. The higher the number, the worse the condition. For example, level 1 is the worst condition for the sufferer. They have small amount of clutter in their personal living space. Now the next level is 2, and that shows chronic disorganization. And finally, there's level 4 and 5. A person might be residing in a space that is unsanitary, dangerous, and possibly not fit for human habitation. Now, what's the complications behind this? Like many psychological disorders, hoarding is often misunderstood or not even noticed by the person who is suffering from it. And for example, a person who's at a 4th level, excuse me, I've got to turn my phone off. A person at the 4th level might live in a house where no cleaning or no maintenance has been done for a long while. Yet the person takes no notice of how physically and how hygienically dangerous their lifestyle is. And we've all seen hoarders and how it doesn't, even though it doesn't look right, smell right, and is very unsanitary, the person doesn't see that. Most of the time, the person sees that these are things that are important to them, and they have to keep them close because so many other people have gone out of their lives unexpectedly, So they have to hold on to something. People are a little bit iffy. So even though this is a dangerous lifestyle for some, in their home, they could catch fire or could spread communicable diseases. There's even worn out electric cords or frayed wires, bad furnaces, bad stoves, and very minimal space even to walk in, all which can lead to dangerous situations. This is a byproduct of a chronic hoarder, and it could be putrid, it could be aggravated mold, and roach infested. But they don't see it. So, where does this come from? Where does this come from that physical objects for someone with a disorder can act as a substitute, companion, security, and in fulfillment? Where does it come from? For many hoarders at the advanced stages, it's nearly impossible to make a routine decision about anything, especially when it comes to letting go of possessions, organizing them, or cleaning up the space where things are kept. In fact, people who reach level 4 or 5 in that scale live lives completely engulfed in the clutter and always living to cover it up and not living at all or getting out, enjoying life. They are living to keep the clutter covered up. So they completely detach from others. They completely find excuses not to go out and be part of life because they have to keep that clutter under wraps and make it look nice. It's a hazard. We look at it as a hazard. They can't, because it lacks hygiene. It could be a hazard, and it, relatably so, it's kind of sad. I heard someone say one time, what you see on the outside reflects what's in the inside. And they were talking about their body. Now, when you talk about a hoarder, what is on the inside is what's happening on the inside. So it's not normal and not comfortable to live in this clutter. But professionals are treating this disorder, and it does take time. So what are the symptoms of a hoarder? Of course, we're going to say that the house is hoarded. But that's what we see on the outside, right? What are the signs and symptoms of the hoarder, and is there a problem that usually affects the older people? That's really the question, and you have to think about it, but the children learn it from the adults. So just so you know, children are not normally like that. They keep things, but then they're so easy to throw it away. Think about Christmas. You work hard all year long, and then you go and buy them gifts, and they end up playing with an empty box. So children are not, inclined to hoard or keep things. Maybe if they're little brats that, really want to keep things because they want to keep things because somebody asked for it. But thinking about that, even when hoarders are said, oh, you have 2 or 3 of those things, give one away, they can't see it because someone else is interested in it. So it's almost like that their little child is acting up, saying, no way, I'm a spoiled brat, I'm not giving anything away. So it becomes chronic and progresses, and it gets worse and worse. That's when professional help needs to be sought. There are at least 10 early signs that tend to show up, beginning stages of this disorder. Some of them are very hard to spot because they're only mild, non-obvious hoarding symptoms, but do show up and need help nonetheless. Once a person reaches adulthood or middle age, typically the hoarding symptoms become clear. But it's important to note that not all people who show these early warning signs end up having the disorder. So we're going to go into what the signs are. And they may seem like it's, I guess, around the board, but let me just say this, that I believe hoarding starts when there's a trauma in their lives. So let's say, I'll talk about me. So I always hoarded pictures. I love taking pictures, keeping all the pictures, looking at them over and over again, weekly, sometimes, daily, looking at them. I always wanted pictures. Well, there was an instance in my life where the landlord of my property didn't tell me that their house was under foreclosure. And so, me coming home one day, coming to the house, only to see a board on the door and all of my items gone. Or locked in, I should say, not locked in. So by the time I found out, everything was emptied out into a dumpster, couldn't find out where it was. So I had no pictures. So I was totally depressed about not having pictures of my children. But I did have one or two because they were online, and so I kind of saved them. I was always good about saving things online, taking pictures and putting it online and saving it somewhere, But the fact that, oh wow, all those little times that I need to remember and look at, I didn't have anymore. So think about a hoarder and a trauma happens in their lives, whether it be they're separated from their family, whether they've been given away, whether they've been adopted out, and there's abandonment issues. Usually that's where it comes from. It starts there. So that same energy is now everything I see, everything I buy, I gotta keep it. Or at that moment they haven't a lot of stuff, they have to buy more. So they see commercial on television, gotta have that. Gotta have that. So take a look and listen to these I guess these little symptoms. One is problem paying attention or keeping attention for more than a few minutes. Having to struggle to make routine decisions about various things. Marked difficulty in throwing away, giving away, selling, or recycling their possessions. Inability to see that they have a problem even when it's pointed out to them. Keeping items in their beds with them while they sleep at night. Shopping too much, amassing free objects and products that were too good to pass up. Rearranging piles of items and not getting rid of any of them. Difficulty categorizing their items or organizing them in a meaningful way. Problems with piles of stuff, like books and papers that keep falling over. Masses of clutter that make it hard to move around in their bedrooms, in their house. Those are the symptoms. Make it very hard for them to move around. But those are some of the early stages of symptoms of hoarding. And it might show up in teenage years and then go along with them as adults. Now, this is a really hard thing to really, I guess, get rid of, because you can pass this on if you have children. You can pass this on to your children, and then you can actually rope other family members in if they're living with you. So they become hoarders by default. Miserable. They could be miserable. They become hoarders by default. So they control their space and the space that either their husband and wife, their cousin, their nieces and nephews, their sons, daughters are in, no matter what. So why do otherwise normal people hoard objects? The main reason someone hoards is because they think the items will be valuable or somehow useful to them in the near or distant future. Like I said earlier, often they keep items that have special sentiment to them, or they assume it's hard to replace, or it's very unique in some way, or it was acquired at a huge discount. Getting a real good deal on something can be attractive lure to a hoarder, even if they know they don't need it. Another reason for hoarding is related to memory. People who suffer from this disorder often believe that one or another item will help them remember a significant event in their lives or a person of great importance to them. Finally, hoarders might keep an item simply because they can't find a proper place to put it. The rule seems to be, when in doubt, keep it. It's important to realize that hoarding disorder is not always standalone, meaning that it's sometimes a sign that another large-scale disorder is present. For example, many hoarders simultaneously are challenged with depression, ADHD, OCD, OCPD. So those things are kind of like hidden because we see all the other stuff until we get to talk to them and really get to know them and understand that we kind of see those other things. It's even possible for hoarding to be connected to various eating disorders, dementias, certain forms of psychosis, and possibly a genetic disorder called Prader-Willi syndrome. I don't know much about it, but I know a little bit, but not much. So answering the question, why do people hoard, is a complex task. It's left to the medical professionals. And if you're a friend of someone that has that, if you yourself feel that you're doing that, it's time to seek medical professional help and allow them. Be open to allow. If you notice these hoarding symptoms in you or someone you know, and you want to help without being too forceful, get a professional help for the person. It's a fact that hoarding will not cure itself, but needs to be treated by someone with medical credentials. Just starting to clean the items on the outside doesn't mean it's clean on the inside. So all it's going to do is show back up. If you move out into a new place, it's only going to show up again because you're not dealing with what's going on here and here. I hope this helped those people that DM'd me. And if you have questions, I'm willing to answer, and I'm also willing to get an expert who I know, one of my friends, who's really good at this, and we can have a talk about it. See you next time around.